Hey, this is Ryan from One Sprue Loose. I'm here today to talk about modifying Warhammer miniatures, and I kind of wanted to give you an example of how I do that and the process that I go through, a couple of the tools that I find useful, stuff like that. Here's an example of a finished model that I've done in the past. It is an old Morgul model that I went ahead, modified, and spruced up, changed up to my liking. And I wanted to be able to show a couple of examples, maybe a couple of modern examples. For example, I've been working with a couple of kill team models, which you see the box right here. It's the one that I'll be working on and showing you how I would assemble it. I did the Beastman kill team, and I thoroughly enjoyed all the little modifications that I've made and things. And a lot of what I like to do is think about, in a world that I could assemble the miniatures, what would I like to see? For example, I changed a few things, gave guys couple of packs, almost like whenever I was thinking about this world, I was thinking post-apocalyptic, maybe something close to BioShock. So kind of added my own thrills and flavor, and yeah, I just thoroughly enjoy the process of making things look different, especially when they're not advertised as such. So let me go ahead and get into the process of what tools that I recommend and everything like that. Back again. So I recommend having a little sewing needle. I've found it useful when it has a little round end and a sharp end. I also recommend having a toothpick. I have, you kind of see three. One that maybe I use for paint, kind of scrub with one end. One where it has two picks. Sometimes I'll take the X-Acto knife, sharpen it to a point or exact width that I enjoy. Another one where I take these pair of clippers and just stub the ends. I have a stubbed part, especially when I'm working on different areas. I typically recommend 2 pliers. Reason is you want one to cut the plastic and you want one to be able to cut miscellaneous things. I love using wires, so I have a handy dandy pair of pliers that I use for heavier material. Reason why I recommend it is the plastic's soft. It'll typically not chip your pliers if you use things like wires, kind of like I do, or any metal. Your blade, if you look right here, there's a lot of chipping here. So I recommend having 2, one where you use it for heavier duty items where you're just trying to cut it, one where you're just focused on the plastic so you get more concise cuts. Other things I recommend, I've worked with a couple of metal models. Actually, my favorite model is this giant sloth, and there were a couple of details I didn't like, so I took the sander and sanded it. This sander has been super useful in little situations here or there, so I kind of recommend a metal sander. I recommend 2 X-Acto knives, being able to cut. Reason is typically I like to keep one that's sharp for little niche things here or there, and then one that's general use. If you notice this, again, kind of like having 2 of these, you probably notice I've chipped the blade here or there, and I keep it so I have one that I just don't really care. I just go ahead and use it, and one that I do care about, especially with more delicate cuts, or I'm trying to focus on general things. So that's what I would recommend. Last couple of little bits that are helpful are the drill bits. When I first started, I didn't use this, but I ended up really enjoying this. For example, the Morgul model right here, the skulls, I was able to make sure the noses on the skulls were more prominent, even the Morgul nose itself, without drilling into it. It wasn't so noticeable. You could also do it with gun barrels. So for example, the Beastman kind of went through, there we are, went through, took it, drilled, and just makes it super duper nice. So definitely recommend this if you get enough. All right, and lastly, some plastic glue. I'm not sponsored by anyone. I typically like using Army Painter tools and local game store super glue. So the difference between the different glues, this one, the setting time, and typically you want to use this for woods, you want to be able to use this for metal and other things. So whenever I was going through and adding these little metal bits, because I thought, hey, having a Beastman with a couple of different metal bits would be cool. And whenever I'm gluing the plastic on plastic to plastic, I use plastic glue. Plastic glue just melts the plastics and makes sure that they stick together in a more cohesive whole. So kind of going into the design process, whenever I'm looking at the instructions, I kind of go through and kind of see what are the typical ideas that are presented, typical themes. For example, whenever I was going through checking this guy out, I didn't really like how he kind of stood out, especially with his. So I took out the little talisman or whatever it is, and then I added this, made it plain because I wanted him to match more or less some of the other models that were more plain. I didn't want him to be like, oh, he's super far above, but I kind of symbolized that he was more in leadership through different means, and I thought having larger hair kind of matched what I wanted overall. So whenever I'm looking through these books, I'm just going to go through and I go, okay, so here are the options. I kind of base it off of what's more thematic and what I would enjoy. So I'm looking at the different options and I'm like, okay, well, I like this. Maybe this should be on the back. I like this option. So whenever I'm going through, I'm going to have this sword. This right here, I'm probably not going to use. I don't want to have a weapon that looks like this, but I definitely want it. So I'm probably going to go through, have this blade, so you'll have two blades, and I'll put this weapon on the back. So that probably means I take piece 100 out, and then I'm going to have to shave off the hand and off the gun and be able to figure out a way to assemble it, put it on the back of the Kroot in its own design. And then I kind of go through, see which ones I like. Some of them I don't really change. I just decide, hey, I like this. Part of the reason why I like the Beastmen, I just love the messy fact of this. And I like the Kroot models because they look like bird/turtle humanoids, kind of like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So I was like, okay, I'm going with this. And I kind of decide, okay, I want this. So go through. And there might be parts that I'm not liking. For example, I'm not sure if I really like the blades at the end of rifles. Typically, like historically, you had a bayonet, but you didn't want to bend your gun. Like having an axe at the end of a gun wasn't really efficient. So I might change it up, maybe turn it into a bayonet. I'll have to see what I like overall. If I remember, I liked the shotgun in this one. Let's see. Yeah, I think I went for the shotgun. Yeah, put a little symbol there. So whenever I'm going through the design process, I check out every single model, and then I go through saying, hey, I like this one. This one looks cool. This one might match the theme more, but you know what? Having a little extra bird, it's going to be kind of cool. I might have to figure out a new way to do the bayonet right there. Maybe leave it. I don't know. So a lot of different decisions, and typically when I go through this, I'm going to be like, oh, I'm going to choose different things that I want, different likings, and I'm probably going to have to go through these one step at a time, try to figure out which pieces that I like, and then figure out which bits that I could take apart and just, so let's go ahead and get started then. All right, here we go. First guy to go through. I'm just going to go through, clip these guys out. Okay, so after I cut them all out, I try to put them in the order that they're in the boxes. Typically, it usually helps me be able to visualize, okay, these are all my pieces, this is where I need to assemble them, process like that. And when I'm going through, I'm kind of going like, okay, I want this piece, but I don't want this gun. For me, it doesn't seem too apocalyptic. For me, I love Mad Max, Bioshock, things of that nature. And for me, this gun, although it looks cool, it's not exactly what I like. So I like the way this looks. Kind of reminds me of Tusken Raiders. I don't like this though. It doesn't seem quite practical, because if you were, it just bend the barrel and then you couldn't use the gun. Just doesn't seem logical. So I'm just gonna go through, figure out what I like, what I don't like. So little pieces that are big, I go ahead and try to clip off. Things that I think, oh, well, I'm gonna have to find that piece later. So for me, I'm looking already, I'm like, oh, that looks so much nicer. Just having the streamlined barrel like that. I'm gonna have to go through with the X-Acto knife and clean it all up, but yeah, I'm starting to think should clean this up, and I could kind of go like this. So just show you, I'm wanting to angle it, because typically gun barrels, I don't want to go straight down because it'll look more unnatural. I'm trying to get the camera to focus, so I don't want to go straight down. I'm probably gonna come at an angle like this, because typically whenever you want to have a gun brace right here, you typically want to have it angled so it's kind of like this, so it fits to the shoulder a little bit more nicely, kind of like there. Yeah. Okay, so let's see, I'm gonna go like this. Okay, I'm gonna double check on the camera. Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna go ahead do that. I try to keep the bits that I cut off. So right here, I'm probably gonna smooth this out with the X-Acto knife, but yeah, I'm liking how it's looking so far. Let's see, this I'm not liking, no. So this I'm gonna push to the side. Now, this is the bit that I don't want right here. So hopefully it focuses. I like the bags here. I don't like the knife here, so I'm gonna figure out a way to switch it up. So let's go ahead. Okay, this is where the arm is. I'm gonna cut that off. And if something doesn't turn out exactly right, it's not a big deal. I'll just go ahead, use some green stuff, fix it. And then right here, I'm gonna go ahead, figure out a way that I can put it together. It's probably gonna be like such right there. See, how's it gonna turn out? Actually, it's not bad. Wow, I got lucky on this one. Look, it's pretty good. Pretty good. Okay, I like this. I'm gonna get rid of this piece. Now, like I was saying, I usually like keeping all my bits, putting them to the side, just in case I want to use them later. Go through these. I don't see anything that I want to cut off quite yet. Tactical rock is here. Let's see. I do like the way the sword is, everything like that, so I'll clean it up. I have to clean this one up. And then the head, let's see. Can't quite do that, so I'm gonna go ahead and take off that pesky little plastic piece. There we go. See how it fits. Okay. Alright, looks like I need to work on it a little bit so it fits a little bit better. But so far, so good. Okay. Okay, I see how the head's gonna work. Okay. Alright, give me some time and I'll start setting things up. Hey, I'm back. I just went ahead, cleaned up the edges. Whenever you're going through, if you're going, I recommend getting a tool. Seeing where the mold lines are, it'll be a little tiny line running through the model, and you kind of take the edge, and I just recommend scraping it off. It's Usually best if you don't cut in, because if you try to cut in, you might cut more of the model than you actually want. If you take the back edge, kind of like taking a knife and peeling the skin off ginger, you just kind of want to go here, kind of go with, makes it a little bit easier. See, you are taking off bits and chunks, but not as much as you're just gonna, so that's what I would totally recommend. I went ahead, cleaned this up right here. If you notice, full focus, I went ahead, cleaned it up, make it so it looks more natural, kind of more in line with what you would see real world wise. I took out the detail, and something that you might want to keep track of whenever you're doing things of this nature, of this process, is it's actually good to have things that look more boring and not have so much detail. Reason why I would say this is the way our minds typically work is you want to have some anchor points. What I mean by that is you want to have some points where things look sort of normal, so it accents the things that are a bit more creative or stuff like that. And how I would kind of put it in my own terms or examples, I love the Mad Max films. So the new Mad Max, you probably notice there's times when the characters are on have some downtime, and that downtime allows the movie to just breathe. I love the adrenaline parts, but the adrenaline works best with the downtime included, and probably something that goes against the idea of anchor points. I've been looking at the new Donkey Kong Bonanza, watching people play it or the reviews on it, and whenever I look at the game, it doesn't appeal to me personally, and part of it is there isn't really anything holding the for me personally, I like it when there's colorful things. Like I like the Ghost of Tsushima games. I generally like things that are a bit more colorful. It's easier for me to see. But whenever there isn't something that's stable or somewhat boring, or as I call a anchor point, it ends up making so this is really good, but sometimes you want to notch in a little hole. So I kind of did this. There we go. I'm going to try to make sure it's a bit more aligned. Yeah, that should work. Okay, go like that. Okay, there we go. Just trying to do this for the gun barrel, make it seem more realistic. It's more of an illusion than actual realism. No, I just think Donkey Kong Bonanza is so colorful. Like even like the ground is shiny and stuff like that. And for me, I'm just like, kind of, I know it's been making a whole bunch of people nauseous, and I think part of it has to do with the graphics. Not saying the graphics are terrible, but not having anything that's grounded. Like if you look at Zelda, Breath of the Wild, you notice that Link tends to be more not as shiny as the rest, and it allows your eyes to kind of like look at there, rest there, and then be able to look at everything else. It's kind of a unique trick, especially when you're making these little models. Whenever I'm looking at here, I'm like, okay, what details can I take off? The saying more, less is more is true. Sometimes your imagination is stronger than whatever you can muster or make. So kind of want to be careful in what you're doing, stuff like that. Something I totally recommend. So let's see, how far do I want to take this? All right, so it might look cool if I went and did this, but I'm looking here, and if I do this, it might ruin the design right here. I think I'm just going to leave it. I like how it divots, but I don't think it's particularly a good idea for me to do that. This, on the other hand, you know what? I'm going to switch out the drill bit here, go for something slightly larger than what I've been using for the Beastmen. So let's see. Oops. Yeah, I was trying to look for that piece that I accidentally plopped over, and it seems like it escaped into the ether. So I'm gonna do this. I think it's not that much bigger, but still. Okay, do that. There we go. Let's see, how much bigger is this? Yeah, okay. I'm gonna do that, make the hole a little bit bigger. I think it would look a little bit more natural. The Beastmen one, you definitely want it on the smaller one. I think this one, if you do buy the Kroot kill team, you kind of want a little bit bigger of a hole. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, that looks good. I'm gonna leave these dots in. The Beastmen one, I did just plop it with the tiny one, but I think with this, it would be a little bit more efficient if I didn't do that. Just because of the square design, this will make it circular, and then on top of it there's 3, so if I do 1, 2, 3, I think it would weaken the plastic overall. So right now, since I've cleaned up all the mold lines and stuff like that, I'm gonna go ahead, kind of show off what I was gonna do with this one. So in this one in particular, like whenever you're cleaning up, I'd go through, clean up the extra bits that you weren't able to get, kind of go through to that one technique where you're kind of going like this. Now, something to keep in mind of is whenever you're going through and sometimes you're thinking about, oh, how do I make it seem more realistic? Like, I like the realistic look sometimes whenever you have a knife like this, right? This looks cool, you know, it's going to be sharp, but then, you know, hey, this is the dull end. I'm okay with that. But then you have a sharp end, and then the very tip of it isn't sharp. And if you're going into battle, you don't want to have the tip of your blade be blunt, kind of like how this is if you look. So I'm going to go ahead and modify it just ever so slightly. And what I would recommend is first kind of going through and kind of working out the edge, see the angle that you're going to get. And then once you kind of get a feel for it, ever so slightly. Yeah, okay, it's starting to look better. And maybe a little bit right there. Because you want to be able to have it so it looks like it's been worked on a little bit, like it's been sanded. Life typically isn't looking too perfect, so you kind of want to be gentle, but also give enough space. Yeah. So whenever you're grinding things, you typically have this edge that runs along. So, let me see, it's looking good. I think it could be a little bit better. So let's try to do that. Okay, good. Do that. Now, I do like how the tip is here, but I do think it needs to be a little bit sharpened. So I'm just gonna go ahead, do that technique I was showing you. All right, I'll go ahead, stop. So if you look, I went ahead and modified it so that if the guy did stab, it would be sharp. I mean, if you wanted it to be more realistic, you would take this bit off and have it so it has a point, but I'm just gonna leave it like this because I think it matches the vibe that's going right here, where it's sharp here, but it has that rounded edge. I think having something similar would be nice. So I'm gonna go ahead, glue this together. So here we go. All right, I'm back. I just went ahead, took care of a few things, and now I'm gonna go ahead. All right, sometimes you're working with the model, just be careful. Sometimes it takes a few hours for it to set, and when you get back to it, it's not fully set, but give it some time, let it rest. You can still work with it as long as it's not too wiggly. So, all right, now we're gonna see, how does this attach? Okay, so this will attach this way. So let's say like that and that. I think that looks really cool. Yeah. I like that a lot better. I don't really like the futuristic looking gun here, so had to go with the knife. I didn't like the extra little tiny knife that was attached here. I kind of like the little pouches better. So sometimes you want to pick and choose and try to figure it out what you want. Well, I hope your day is going well. Comment below how you guys are doing. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Now, how am I gonna put this on? Make it look nice, right there. Okay. I think that's good. Yeah. Okay. If you notice a little line right there where it dried, it's dried up pretty good. I'm just gonna go through, lightly brush it through the end. If you look, scrapes off pretty easily. Now, I recommend doing this after everything's been dried up, but I'm just I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I know what I'm doing, just, you know. So, there we go. There we are. Alright, as that's going on, I'm going to glue the head, put it together, let it rest. Now, with the head here, I was dry assembling it, and if you look pretty closely, whenever you dry assemble it, the top of the head isn't quite perfect. I'm going to add a little bit more glue. Sometimes just adding a little bit more glue than you should hides all the little crevices. You go back. You could also use green stuff. Green stuff works really well. There's a few other things you could do as well, fill in gaps. But sometimes having a little extra glue and then just taking off whatever excess you don't want later on is the best bet. Okay, so gotta make sure the beak, I think it's a beak. I forget what turtles have. These, the way their mouths are shaped, remind me of turtles and tortoises. So, all right, that's going. Now, as that's drying up, gluing down, I'm not gonna touch it without risking it. Now, something I do want the gun, but I want it attached to the back of this guy. I'm not going to add a bayonet to this one because he already has 2 knives, but I figure he should have a gun. So whenever I'm looking at the gun, the last thing I need to take off is this hand. So what I'm going to do is take off the excess portions that I know should immediately come off. I'm just going to put those here, obviously the fingers, stuff like that. Now, you're going to get these little parts where it's not going to be perfect, and you're going to have to whittle it down. But sometimes doing this, going little by little helps. So, it takes a while, but with patience, you can get part of it out. All right, well, perfect timing. So sometimes I keep a sewing needle so I could go pop it loose. Sometimes try to get the junk that's in between cleaning up. Makes it a little bit easier, especially if I'm trying to get the glue out. So there we go. Yeah, I did too much glue. Oh well. If you mess up, it's not a big deal. You just pull it apart. Sometimes I take like a paper towel or something, wipe off the extra. Technically, you could just have the extra glue on there, and then whenever you're going back, take off the extra glue with a knife. Sometimes I use this, helps out too, so it's not a big deal. Let's do this, clean this up. See, how does this assemble? So it's like that, and it goes there. Okay. And then sometimes you want to actually have it where the glue comes out a little bit more, fills in the gaps, per se. Sometimes I just go through, add a little extra glue, adds a bit of a line to it, but makes it so I do that. And then whenever it dries, I just go through, kind of shave it down to be a bit more smooth by doing that one technique. Makes it so it comes out a little bit better. So I am going to fix this. So the way this would work is this. Okay. I'll go ahead ahead, add some glue there. I like the plastic glue, the one thing, it kind of leaves little webs, residue, so just keep that in mind when you're going through. You might have to go through, take it out. So another thing I like with having the two X-Acto knives, you can kind of go like this, wipe it off. You can also use toothpicks, kind of go through, get into the deep recesses, like, oh, you don't like it when it's in the crevices like that, you kind of go like that. Cleans up the glue, makes it so it's a little bit nicer. So like that, if you want, brushes it off. Now with this, I'd be looking at how the arms are set. So if you look, he has his arms set so it's a little bit higher, so you could go okay, or you could do something like that. So because we kind of cut off the arm, we could readjust it, set it in any position that we would like. So theoretically we can go like this, go like that. Let me see how they did this. What we can do, let's do this, we'll make it a little bit easier for ourselves. Take the shoulder bit here, cut it off. We could glue the shoulder bit here onto here so we get that natural clip, because if you look, it has the bump here. We could go here so it's a bit more natural. Take this rounded edge, glue it here, make it a little bit easier. It'll get we would have to take a little bit more time to let it rest, glue, all that stuff, but I think it'd be much easier in the end, especially when you're trying to go through, make sure things look nice. Let me take away the webbing, just adjust this just right. Just go ahead, clean that. Okay, and this has a more rounded edge now, and because both of these have rounded edges, it'll be easier for me to make adjustments. Plus it looks a little bit more natural. When I was looking at it, I'm like, I'm not sure, this seems more natural. Kind of a rule of thumb is if an arm, if fully extended, should be able to reach around mid-thigh, maybe towards the knee, so I think it's about the right length. We could go like that. I think it'd be nice. There we go. Okay, I'm adding more glue than needs be, but doing it so I could kind of adjust. The glue will help it set a little bit more. And overall, there we go. Overall, I could just work with it this way. Let it set, let it dry. I'm just gonna let it rest for a bit. And after it sets, I'll go ahead, come back, try to finish up the rest. I think that looks better. Yeah. And if you want, like, you're like, oh, I did a terrible job, you could have it where the sling goes this way, covers up any bad job you did. Technically this is so small, it's not like a whole bunch of people are going to notice. If you buy models where it looks like they've been out and about, they're probably going to have equipment that's not the best. Sometimes just leaving it all messed up is nice. If you want to fix this up, you could use other materials like EVA foam. EVA foam's actually really good. You could try to go through very softly, like if I'm doing this. Used to lathe when I used to do woodworking, so say to kind of slice ever so slightly, see how it's rolling. Then if you notice here, you could unfurl it, unroll it, and then use it for anything. So if you wanted to keep that look right there, you can take the piece, unravel it, put it here, and it should look good. I'll do it for you guys on this video, but you don't have to. So there, probably notice. Trying to make it focus. So I went ahead and unfurled it. I'm kind of stamping it down so it has a good grip. Now, whenever I'm going to go through, do this, I'm going to add a little bit of glue here. Okay. A little bit. You don't need too much, especially when you're trying to fix stuff. And then kind of just gently place it there, go through. There you go. Now it doesn't have to be perfect. You could probably notice a few mistakes, see? But I'm gonna go like this, have it on his back like this. It's not gonna be noticeable. Like personally, I see it triangulates at the end here, but if I put this on his back, this side on his back, keep this on the front, it's not a big deal. So, well, at least not to me personally. So that I can do. If I'm putting this on his back, this keeps hitting his back. I could take this plastic bit, bend it. That's the good part about these plastic kits. You could just bend whatever plastic you want. So I put this, made it so it goes straight down instead of curling. It was curling this way. You just take it. You don't want to yank it. You just gently go like this. If you have a harder plastic, I recommend doing hot water. Sometimes you get buy those models and the weapon's bent, so hot water bend just little by little fixes it. So this should be good. Yeah, that looks better. I'll do that. So the little piece, I did bend it. I could tell it's broken, but you could just go ahead, pop a little bit of the glue. If I could get it out of the bottle. There. And I'm just going to thicken it. Now, the glue will be thick, so it's able to hold a little bit stronger. I'm going to go ahead glue the back side as well. Reason why I'm doing this is I want to make sure that the bond is a little bit strong and secure, so did that. I'm gonna add it right here. Looks like it actually fits right there perfectly, so let's go ahead, get a couple of parts glued in. So I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna put it there, and there. There we go. Do that. Now, if you want it to be a little bit more realistic, you might want to have a little piece of wire or something. Have it so it goes across his chest, maybe to the end there. I could kind of show you what I would do. If you add it though, it just might be too much detail, and that could be a thing. Just sometimes it's a little better to have it where your imagination kind of takes over. Not always having it super duper realistic is sometimes having it super duper realistic and then having that option where it's like, oh yeah, it's totally on him, it just kind of makes it look worse. Now if I'm looking here, you could go, yeah, right there. So you could adjust his head with this model. This one, like if I was doing a wire, let me see, where is the spool? I could take this wire, go right here. I would do this, wrap it around and have something on the edge here. So let's see, go ahead and do this for you guys. I'm gonna do this. Now remember, I usually use this with the plastic ones. Don't want to ruin it. This one, I don't really care. I've been using it for metal. Sometimes I use it for little bits of wood. It's what it's there for. So I'm back. I went ahead, created the next model, and I finished up the one that I was working on. I just wanted to go ahead, talk about what I did. This one, I like the original model. Only thing I did was create little holes. So I created one here. I create a little hole right there. Let me see if I can, yeah, so you can see it. So it looks like you can get the eyeglass, and same right here. Not too deep, but just enough to get it. Enough the details. I did the same thing over here where I didn't drill in. Reason why I didn't drill in is I don't think the plastic's going to be strong enough if I drill in. The drills that I do have anyways are circular, and I'm pretty sure if I try to go in, it's a circle, square, I don't think it's going to look right. So I just went ahead and left it this way. Otherwise, I went ahead, did this, and for the sniper, I chose the guy with the, let me see, with the metal patch over his one eye, so figured it'd look cooler. And this guy, all right, if you had the okay, well, make sure you don't throw your models around, but if you have the same issue as me, you can always try to super glue the different areas. Like some of the parts were just moving around way too much, so I went ahead, super glued it. Sometimes plastic glue works great. Sometimes you want quicker results. I just recommend super glue. Obviously I got this from my local game store, so you know, stuff like that. I went ahead, kept it this way. I was thinking about adding a sheath for the knives and the sword, but then I'm like, I'm gonna add too much detail, and kind of I was telling you, less is more. You just don't want to have too much. I definitely do like the what I did with the gun, where I created a what is it called? Yeah, someone in the comments remind me what it is. Basically, strap. Oh, a gun strap to go around the shoulder all the way down here. I tied it. If you are using metal wire, copper wire, kind of like I am, I recommend using an old pair of pliers that you don't mind ruining. So you're able to do that. And with this, you actually do need the super glue. Any points like right, let me see if I can get it right. If you look at this point, to make it so it seems like it's connected, I went ahead and did super glue. A, makes it stronger, no one can pull it apart. B, it seems like it was tied without me having to do a whole bunch of work. I did the same thing over here. Doing this also allows the gun to stay on stronger, but also allows me to glue different parts, just little bits here or there, make sure it's a strong hold. So otherwise, I think we're good. Oh, something to consider, especially when you're going through this, and I was mentioning it to my wife, when you're making a model, you want to think about the angles that everything's moving towards. So if you look, it's kind of going in a triangle formation. So I wanted to make sure I kept it so it seems more like streamlined, everything's flowing. Also, I kind of like how it's more one side and it's not completely full. Sometimes you get those models and it's just like there's a silhouette here, silhouette there, and then you get to look at the old models from 90s or maybe the 80s. They were kind of like this. So I kind of enjoy the style, so that's what I went ahead and did. I'm gonna go ahead start making more. I'm gonna pause the video. You'll see it after I get into a more interesting part. I kind of want to show you the different parts that where I merge and create things, kind of like how I took the two concepts of this guy, merged it together. I kind of want to show you what I do with the next one. So here we go. I just went ahead and assembled the next model. I went ahead and do a more cyborg look. I didn't like the way they do the weapons, so I went ahead, snipped this off, and then changed it so it's a bayonet, so you could kind of see the difference. They do this, but if realistically this would bend the barrel, you wouldn't want that. So I just went ahead, did bayonet, kind of like how they did back in the day. Also got rid of the spike here. Something else that I thought was interesting when I was going through and doing it, if you look, it seems to be a little bit thicker, and then on this side it's a little bit thinner. And what I was doing when I was going through this was I saw this skull and I'm like, I don't want this skull. So I went ahead, took off the skull. As you kind of see, I mostly got the skull. The backside didn't get much of the backside of the leg. Front side of the leg, just a little bit, but not even that much to even really talk about. But what I noticed is it's almost like they used the decoration to hide some of the design flaws, and I was like, okay. So in order to kind of work around that, I was thinking that I would use this, have it right here, because that would give him a knife and everything, and I wanted to kind of show you guys what I would do. So what I would do right here is start breaking this apart, right? So you have to take off the fingers, the whole hand per se. So here, give me a few moments. I'll go ahead and get this out. So, all right, I got most of it. Give me a few moments. I'm gonna work this out. I'll be back. All right, I'm back. I went ahead and added the knife. I think the knife looks so much better. I had to replace the hilt. I accidentally didn't like the way it turned out after I shaved it down, so I just clipped it off, placed it with one of the spare stubs, and created it. I went ahead, took the wire attached to where the skull was attached, put it on, and then it kind of disguises the fact that they made the leg skinny, sort of. I don't know. Whenever they were designing it, it seems like they made the leg a little too skinny. But that is it. I went ahead, put it on its base. I'm I'm not too particular on basing. If you want, you could take the skull that you take off, add it to the terrain, kind of like right here, however you want, but I just don't think it's really needed. Hey, I'm back. I went ahead and took off the skull. Actually, it looks a lot cleaner, a lot nicer, a little less cluttered, more free-flowing, especially with everything else. So I'm starting to like taking off the skulls. I think the skulls were hindering the way they were looking, actually, especially when you add different things to it, try to make it look nicer. I don't know, I think it makes it look nicer. Leg bugs me though. So the difference between this one, I cut the skull pretty close to exactly where the skull was in order to make it give the illusion that the leg on this one is thick. I actually cut the skull slightly out, and then I rounded the skull ever so slightly, and then whittled the plastic down until it looked like it was a full complete leg. I think that's the key if you're going to do the same thing like I did on this one. So that's what I would recommend if you had to. So all right, I'm gonna go ahead, pre-assemble the next one and show you what I did. All right, I'm back again. This time I went with the shotgun, and I'll go ahead and mention what I did with this model. So first things first, I took the shotgun and I drilled in with the barrel. I used this tool, and then what I did, because this right here had one hole, I drilled a bit wider, and then once I got wide enough and close enough to both sides, I just took the edge of my blade and just popped the holes on both sides, just like that. It's not perfect, but you know, it works for me. And then for this guy, I didn't like the knife. Let me show you. I just didn't really like the way this was looking, so I just went ahead and popped that off. And then I use this hand, which, for getting into the rule, the guidebook right here, it's this particular model when he's loading in the, there we go, when he's loading in his clip and loading in the bullets. So I just took that model, I carved out the hand so he was no longer holding the bullet, and instead I went ahead, drilled it, and I took one of the toothpicks, clipped it, and then I just sanded it down. So if you want a comparison, I sanded it with both this, and then I whittled it down with this as well, kind of making it smooth. I think it turned out well. I think it's one of my more favorite models actually now. Just kind of improvising. I just wanted to do this video so it's more casual, but also kind of show the process and things that I really enjoy. Like I didn't think I would enjoy this model this much till I just went ahead, tried out something new. First time I've done this. Yeah, I just find it fun just doing all this. Let me do a 360. Yeah, I've been on I used to base all the time, but recently I just been liking the plain style of bases. As long as the model's like tiny like this, I don't really I haven't been really wanting to base in a while. I don't know why, but I think it just mentally it seems cooler. Maybe it's just me, but I've been enjoying this. I'm gonna get the other model set up and I'll show you what I've done. Hey, I'm back again. So I went ahead, assembled this guy. Figured since he had a shotgun, I should give him a cigar, kind of like the last guy. There was a shell coming out here, so I just replaced the shell that was popping out, and then put in a little piece of wood right there so it would match the other guy. So if you look here, let's see, can I get it clear? There's a cylinder that goes all the way through, and then I have the cigar. I went ahead, did that, so they would match. I did the same thing with the gun barrel, opened it up, stuff like that. With this one in particular, I didn't like how it didn't have a shoulder pad, so I chopped off a shoulder pad from a previous one that wasn't used, put the arm on, bent the fabric here just a little bit. So there we are. I was able to get it all glued up except for on the base. It's still drying here, but yeah, that is another finished one. Oh, and last thing, as I was doing it, I was looking back at my models, and what I noticed was I clipped these off right here. There were little tassels or extra bits of fabric. I just clipped it off. Makes it a little bit more streamlined. So if you want to do this, makes it a little bit cleaner, nicer to look at, stuff like that. Kind of makes me want to go back, see if there's any extra tassel-y bits. Let me see. This guy right here has it. Let's see. Let's go ahead. I'm gonna use these, so I'm just gonna bloop. Let's see. Okay, so whenever you do that, it exposes a gap. All right. With this particular one, you might not want to do it. Looks like it exposes a gap. I'm going to be working on a little bit on the shoulder, see if I can fix it. Give me a second. All right, I went and fixed it. I just trimmed it up, added glue so it will dry in between. If it doesn't feel right, I just recommend using green stuff, or maybe taking bits of plastic, cutting into little tiny pieces of slivers, packing in there and adding more glue. Sometimes that works. Something to keep track of. So with the wood, I went ahead and used super glue. Something to keep note, whenever you use the quicker dryer stuff, it's super watery. So when I initially did this, yes, the wood piece got stuck right there, but then the fingers here totally got messed up. I had to clean up everything. The fingers didn't look good. So if you can see, let's see if I can zoom in. Can't really see it. I had to cut off the fingers and then find a hand to a different model that wasn't being used, stick those fingers on so it looks more natural, like he's holding it. If you are using super glue, I recommend kind of medium. Medium tends to be pretty good. I would go with that. But yeah, these little wooden sticks are just toothpicks. So, all right, off to the next model. All right, I'm back. I kind of went ahead and did 3 models. I was just totally getting into it. And with this model, I remember I was like, I'm not sure if I liked the grenade or if I liked the weapons. I was trying to contemplate how I would put it together. And I was just looking at it, I'm like, I don't know. So since these guys kind of remind me of Ninja Turtles, I kind of went for a shredder themed with the weapons, so dual knives. And I was looking, I'm like, I want this guy to have a range weapon. I was trying out some of the extra pistols that come in with the kit. I didn't really liked anything, so I went ahead and created a flame thrower that is attached to his hand. Now, the way I did this is, you probably remember from the beginning of the video I mentioned that I had some beast men models that I had, and right here these are a couple of shoulder pads I glued together to make it look more spherical. I put it together. These are the horns of the beast men. I just shaved it down, kind of modified it to make it look like it's a hose attaching to the actual flamethrower bit, you know, the actual nozzle. So I went ahead and did that. I really like what I was able to do. Kind of makes it look more turtle-y, especially with this. And I kind of like the idea that there's a flamethrower guy part of the set. And then with this one right here, I didn't like how I liked the bird, but I didn't like how it was attached to the weapon. And like if you're looking at traditional like Mongolian falconry or falconers, they typically have a glove. And if you look, like if you get the set, the knife here had a glove, so I popped off the knife and attached the falcon, let me see if I could, to the glove, and then I hollowed out the actual hand here, so it seems like he's kind of going like this as he's holding the bird. And since this model right here had a shotgun, I kind of gave him a cigar, kind of like all the other guys that I've been working with. So I went ahead, did that, so they 3 go together, they kind of match. It's a squad of them. While I was doing that and I was looking at the other pieces, this one I didn't like the way that this leg was thinner, and I was trying to hide how thin it was. So I went ahead, added a pack right here, kind of give it the illusion that it's a little bit thicker. If you're working with this particular model, I'd be I would recommend maybe not taking the full skull off, but kind of using part of the skull to make the thigh thicker. And I was kind of going back, seeing how much of the thigh I took off, and it's not much that I took off. So I'm thinking, in order to disguise how thick the thigh was, they kind of made the skull thinner than it should be, or the thigh thinner, so it didn't seem like it was too bulky on the model. I think that's where it was. And then out of these, I liked the guy with the dual pistols. I didn't do anything. It kind of reminded me of Tomb Raider with Lara Croft, and I was like, you know what, it looks pretty cool, so I just left it as is. I think this one is pretty neat, so I just went ahead and did that. Well, there's 4 models left. I'm going to go ahead and try to get them done. See you soon. So I'm back. I went ahead and finished up the last models. I like the heavy machine guns, but I didn't really like some of the accent points. Let me see if I could go like this. There we go. So I went ahead, cut off the bits that were extending out. I was looking at this and I was like, it'd be kind of cool if it was like a vacuum or a launcher. So drilled a hole in here, has the tube, put the 2 tubes back here, kind of left it this way. I liked having the idea of having 2 heavy gunners, so I went ahead, modified this guy right here. Instead of having a crossbow or regular gun, modified him to have a heavy gun. The way I did it was I took one of the shoulder bits, cut out a little bit more of another part, kind of fully create that shoulder, and I had to do it with the other side too so it could fit better. I added the ammo that's associated with this. I left the chainsword because this guy right here has a pistol. I figured, well, let's make him unique and different, so I went ahead and did that. If you are filling in gaps, another way of doing it is this. Whenever it's the medium, it's a little bit easier. It'll help fill in some of those gaps. It isn't perfect. If you want to be having it so it looks a bit smoother, I'd recommend green stuff. But for what this is, I'm enjoying it. Now, the dogs right here, the bird dog things, I didn't like the little tiny tails that it came with. I clipped the tails and then I extended them out. I expanded their pouches. It seems like they're more like, these guys are more like scouts, but also like carrying ammo, supplies. So I went ahead and modified them so they're carrying a little bit more and that their tails are a little bit longer. And just for comparison, in the box, see how they have the short. Typically in real life, tails are used to help with balance, especially with animals. So I just went ahead, extended the tail so they seem more streamlined. Camera keeps trying to focus on the icon. More streamlined, but also appear to be more balanced overall. Because without the elongated tail, it seems like they're always leaning forward and gonna fall forward. This way, it makes it so it seems more balanced. So that's the approach. I'll go ahead and show you guys a final shot of all of them put together. All right, I went ahead, put them all together. This is the final setup. This is how they look like. I'll go ahead, also try to rotate them. Yeah, I've really enjoyed this. I just wanted this video to be more casual. My favorite part of the miniature hobby is actually the sculpting and everything. So let me go ahead, rotate these guys. Oops. There we are. Let's go ahead, do that. There we go. Yeah, so this is what I did to make the models more of my own. Try to design it the way I would think they should be designed. Let me know, comment down below, stuff like that. And yeah, thank you for watching the video. It's much appreciated. This is the first YouTube of hopefully many. I wanted to keep myself accountable. I love doing special sculpts, and I like taking the different sculpts from different models and modifying them to my liking. So I wanted to show my favorite part of the hobby and keep myself accountable. So I'm just gonna leave off with probably showing you a couple of positions of this mock battle. I've enjoyed this process. If you enjoyed this process, leave a like, subscribe, comment, share, whatever helps the channel. I wanted to say thank you and have a nice one. See you next time.
Like, subscribe, comment, share.
Meow.